All right, everyone, welcome to Real Raw Health with your host, Nikki Burnett of Taste Life Nutrition and Matt Rowe of Parsley Pet. During our show, we are talking about your pet's health, raw feeding, and the health our pets bring to us with love. And Nikki and I always dabble into a little bit of human health because we can't get off that topic because it's too important to everyone that's out there. So thank you, Nikki, for being on the show today.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. This is a good one because I think this is something that people or dogs experience all the time. And everybody's like, why does my dog keep getting ear infections? Or why does my dog's ears stink? Or what's happening? And is this normal? And so I think that this is, I don't know if it's a fun topic, but it's a relevant topic.
I think it's an extremely important topic because I remember when we used to have a Labrador and when Doc was with us, Doc would come in with just this brown stuff in her ears, and she was a Labrador, and we're just like, oh, she's got floppy ears, and that's just the way, you know, dogs get. And as I study now and stuff that I'm doing with Leo, our Catahoula, who has big floppy ears, he doesn't get ear infections. And so it has really sparked that curiosity in there is why was Doc, our Labrador, so afflicted with ear infections that we were constantly wiping her ears and trying to clean them and trying to stay on top of it, but it just was a never-ending battle. But why is Leo staying away from him and he doesn't get them at all?
I know.
Yes, Nikki?
What do you feed that's different?
Well, with Doc, I made a terrible mistake, and this is the guilt I have as a pet parent, is I shortened Doc's life by 4 years. So we had to put Doc down at around the age of 11 because of a kibble-fed diet that really impaired her ability to function. She went from athlete the month before to invalid the next month, to where I was picking her up to go over door frames. And it was just and anybody who's lost a puppy that's watching now, it just rips your heart out. And there's nothing good that comes from it. So, but it did lead me to Parsley Pet, and it did spark this curiosity of what Leo, or the difference between Leo and Doc. And Doc ate kibble because we didn't know any better. That was what was shoved down our throat. This is what you feed a dog. Nobody talked about raw feeding.
No, I know, which is why we do it.
Yeah, amen.
Somebody's got to do it.
Talk to everybody in the world that this is the way you should feed your dog. You can stay away from this. So was kibble a potential reason why inflammation was happening and that pus was getting created around in that sinus and ear?
Yeah, so I think so much of what happens when we feed kibble, it's the high carbohydrate, the high sugar, the unhealthy fats, it's all inflammatory, but it also is going to increase GI dysfunction and increase microbiome dysfunction. And so if ours or a dog's microbiome, which is going to be the gut bacteria, right, or microbiota, if it's dysfunction, so dysbiotic, which is an imbalance of the good and bad bacteria,
right,
then it gives the opportunistic or pathogenic bacteria, yeast, microbes, the ability to overgrow. And it doesn't have to just be in the gut. I mean, we've got bugs all over us, and those bugs are there to protect us unless they are dysbiotic, right? And so it can create a situation where they have, and this is mostly speaking to yeast infections in ears or over the rest of the body. But, they can have that chronic yeast infection, smelly, itchy, inflamed, uncomfortable, ears. But there are other reasons for infections as well, or for yucky ears, and we can go over that. But, when it comes to food, if we're not feeding them, they're not getting the nutrient density they need, and they're not getting the right foods, and they're not getting the biologically appropriate and biologically available foods, then their body is not going to have a robust immune system. It's not going to have a robust microbiome, and it's not going to have the ability to fight off these invaders when they come in.
So you're saying just by eating kibble, we're causing that inflammation inside of our dogs, and it's creating that dysbiosis. Is that, they're basically, their immune system has been weakened to a degree that it's allowing this bacterial overgrowth up, especially around in the ear areas and stuff like that. But then, you know, can you imagine what could actually be happening inside at a cellular level
Yeah.
to the animal? I mean, we're seeing the outward appearance with,
Right.
ear infections and stuff like that. This doesn't even attribute everything that's going on inside of their bodies.
Yeah,
It's
I mean, that's kind of
damaging.
what we see last. We see
Yeah.
the outward symptoms last because the body is, it's like that duck underwater, it looks all cool on the outside, but underneath the water is going like this and is trying working really hard. Well, and that's what the
Yeah.
body's doing every day. It's working so hard for us to keep us healthy and do all of the functions that it has to do, you know, every second of every day for as long
Right.
as we're alive. And if we're not giving it what it needs to be able to do that job, then
Mhm.
things are going to go awry. We don't always know it until that outward symptom, which it could be a yeast infection, or it could be
Yeah.
pain or fatigue or cancer, or whatever the case may be.
Mhm.
So yeah, absolutely. Feeding kibble, and I say this all the time, but I have to say it again in case somebody new is watching,
Mhm.
is there is zero good in kibble.
Mhm.
Don't think about kibble as, well, the marketing people tell me it has all the nutrients they need, so I need to give this to my dog so I don't miss anything in their diet. If
Mhm.
you want your dog to live a long, healthy, full, and fulfilled life, get them off kibble. I mean,
Mhm.
that's as straight and as clear and as clean as I think we can put it,
Mhm.
because we cannot doubt. Now, we also can't just feed meat. They need other things too,
Mhm.
for to have that complete diet. And that's why we do what we do. But don't be afraid. Don't let the marketing companies scare you into believing that they know your dog better than you do and that they know how to feed your dog, because what they have in those bags is deadly.
And what you're saying is the dog's body inside is coming out of homeostasis. So in order to get back into homeostasis, the body is fighting as hard as it can, and it can't control some of these bacterial overgrowths or other incidences within the body, other areas of inflammation. I mean, we had talked about, in other shows as well, pancreatitis, and we're talking about other type of ailments that come in and they're just unexplained. We don't know where they can come from, like an ear infection. Ear infection, then what you're saying is almost like a stop sign or a warning sign that says, hey, something bad is happening inside of my body. I want you to pay attention to what might actually be the cause of this. And so you had mentioned a kibble based diet. I am 100% on that. You know that we beat this drum a lot in talking about the inflammation that it does create. So, what is another reason why an ear infection might prop up in my dog?
Well, so other things, I think real quick, I want to, before we move on to
Mhm.
what other things can happen, because I want to tell just a quick story, because this is a relevant story where I have a friend who is now feeding her dog raw food. And so she's working really, really hard. She's a puppy. They have another dog who's been on kibble her whole life. Now they have the puppy, and we know each other. They know how I feel. And so they're working really hard to switch over. So now the puppy has itchies and possibly an infection now with the ear. And so we're wondering, okay, she's getting the right things. What's going on?
Yeah.
So I want to be sure that we hit on this, because we don't totally know the answer. And I think that that's something that we have to work on, because it makes it a little more complicated, right? Than just,
Mhm.
well, it's the raw food.
Right.
So I think though, what we need to look at, because my bet is it's a yeast infection. My bet is she's itchy because she's got some systemic yeast. Her little paws are itchy and her skin's itchy. And so in my opinion, what we need to do then is start looking at eradicating the yeast. Whether there's garlic and golden seal oils that you can put in the ears, there's apple cider vinegar, there's coconut oil. You can put these on the pads, and things that you can do to help with the
Mhm.
yeast. But then I think we really have to go after the gut and start to
Mhm.
help the microbiome, because there's a reason why the yeast keeps getting out of control, or is out of control.
Sure.
So we eliminate it the best that we can, and then we start with probiotics, good digestive enzymes,
Mhm.
to allow that gut to rebuild and to repair, and then allow the little body to take care of the overgrowth. So
Okay.
I just think that that's an important point, because it's just very new and present, and I think that some people are probably experiencing that. They're like, I'm still feeding raw. What's the problem?
Mhm.
You know. And I would say another. Oh, go
Yeah.
ahead.
No, 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 no. I was just gonna ask a question about that, but I can ask that later. So you keep
Okay.
going on the thread.
Well, another point I was going to make was just, and if this is your story, is, and this is the first thing that we did with her little dog, was when we feed vegetables, sometimes dogs just don't do well with vegetables.
Right.
So your guy doesn't do well with vegetables. And so that was the first thing I told her to do. I said, okay, keep with raw, keep with meat, bone, and
Mhm.
liver, or can't even talk, meat, bone,
Organ
and
meat.
organ,
Yeah.
man. And then let's take out all the vegetables. And she did, and
Yeah.
still has itchies and now the ear thing. So I really am thinking now, okay, there's dysfunction in the gut. And so that's where we have to go. And so sometimes we just kind of have to think through the process as best we can. Uh-oh, you
That's what she's
froze.
talking about. And when she come, you're back. Are you back?
Yeah, okay, yeah, all back.
There you
So, yeah, I guess we both froze.
we left the Facebook community just hanging on a whim. So when you're talking about that, you're saying, okay, so you eliminate, how long ago did you eliminate the vegetable matter?
A couple of weeks ago.
A couple weeks ago. So and you guys are
2 or
still
3.
noticing, and is she treating the actual yeast infection itself or that bacterial overgrowth?
No, not yet, because
Okay.
the ear thing I think just came up. And
Okay.
so she's been telling me that the dog's a little bit itchy, kind of chewing at her paws. And then the ear thing just came up. And what made her notice it was the smell. And she's like, that's not normal. And so I asked her, and like, this was just yesterday. So I don't even have an answer yet as to
Right.
what we found. But there's a smell, and I was like, okay, it has to be yeast. Could be bacterial, be yeast and
Mhm.
bacteria, two different things. But I'm thinking yeast, especially with all of the other itchies. And then just hitting those gut bugs and building up those gut bugs.
Right. What kind of toxins, and this is what I'm going to step into. I know toxins to some degree can cause that bacterial overgrowth because it weakens that immune system even more. Are they walking their new puppy in fields that have been recently treated, or
No, they
good?
are they're exactly where I am as far as life and toxicities. And I mean, she's a doctor of Chinese medicine. She's
Oh,
yeah,
awesome.
I mean, she and I are like, we're right there. So she's very, very careful. And that's the interesting thing too, is when you're that careful, a good bit. There's still sometimes tricks that you have to work through and
Yeah,
figure out.
right.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Well,
Yeah.
if she gets it, if she figures out how to correct that piece, now that she's attacked the foundation of all like what the dog is eating, what it's,
Mhm.
improving the immune system, the gut health, the all of that stuff. If the puppy does start to come around, it'd be interesting to have her on the show to talk
Yeah.
about Chinese herbs and stuff like that. If maybe because she's going to approach it based on the modalities of her healing and
Oh
what she
yeah.
does.
Yeah. She's super fun. And I think she just texted me because I asked her how her puppy was. So, but yeah, that would be cool. And just to see what we figured out
Mhm.
with her puppy and what's happening,
Yep.
just environmental toxicities can inhibit, good detoxification, which can create a burden and can, disrupt the microbiome. So there are lots of things
Right.
that can happen here. And so, and her vet's telling her maybe it's just, seasonal allergies and to wait till the winter.
Mhm.
You know, I don't, I, you know, I, that's not, I don't think that's the case, but I don't know that not to be the case. So it's kind of one of those
Right.
things where we just keep trying and waiting to see. But
Mhm.
I'll go back to, if it does happen to be seasonal allergies, why? She's a little puppy,
Mhm.
do we still need to go back and address gut health? Because
Yeah.
we always want to dig and ask why. Let's go back to
Mhm.
gut health. So
And what I like in your approach and how you went after it was you started to eliminate variables. So you took kibble. You didn't even start her on kibble. So that was removed out of the diet.
Yeah.
And also you're taking a look at vegetable matter. Okay, could it be vegetable? So you eliminate that piece out. So you just keep eliminating these pieces until the ear starts to get better, and then really get down to that root cause of
Right.
what might be causing it, which I think is important. I think it's extremely important. We do it for ourselves every day. I'm going to not eat that because it makes me feel bad. And I'm going to eat this because it makes me feel good. But with your dog can't tell you, well, Nikki, dinner last night was wonderful. But what I really like to see is a little bit more. No, your dog can't tell you. We just
Right.
notice it based on ear infections and itching and just abnormal behavior that might be happening that
Right.
is attributing to their health. So yeah, so when we're stepping into those individual pieces, yeah, causing, going after an elimination or taking a look at not just the Western medicine perspective from your veterinarian, but coming in and saying, what can you do as a pet parent to help give them that fighting chance in all of that? So let's keep going. Let's keep going talking about ear infections. So what's another reason an ear infection might pop up?
Yeah, so we get mites. There mites happen all the time. Well, I say all the time. I truly believe mites can happen, but the body still has the immune system, still has the ability to fight even these bigger infestations. So if a dog who's healthy comes in contact with say mange, Demodex mange or something like that, the hope is if you have a dog that comes in contact with it, they have the immune system that has the ability to fight it. And, trees are the same way. There's molds and trees can be strong or they can succumb to a mold or to an infestation, that kind of thing. So, we're all that way. So, if a dog can be exposed to mites, if it ends up getting mites, you eat the brown waxy junk and they, produce junk and it's itchy and red and uncomfortable. And so I think mites are a problem. And I think, I've talked about garlic and golden seal. This is something that I used years ago when I was young for my dogs. And I never had a lot of ear issues, but that garlic and golden seal is a really great little natural antibiotic. It's in an oil, and you just rub it in their ears, and that really can help to get rid of it. But soaking apple cider vinegar and coconut oil and things like that are going to be, really soothing also. Well, apple cider vinegar might not be soothing, but
I've never seen a vinegar be soothing, but yeah, I'll give you your word for it. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it can be in some ways, but yeah, we got to be careful with that. If it's no open wounds, but mites, that can be a problem. Water, you can get a little swimmer's ear with, dogs get water in there, and that can create kind of a yuck. But then, you've got bacterial infections and yeast infections. And I think that those are probably the most prevalent. Sorry, I've got itchies myself. Most prevalent infections. And I think my understanding is one of the top reasons why dogs go to the vet is for bacterial and yeast infections.
Wow. And that's where you look at all of these different areas. So have you guys because this puppy is living with an older dog, correct?
Yeah.
So is there something that the older dog may have transferred mites or something like that onto the puppy? Because I would imagine they sleep together. Are they buddies?
No, older dog is not super happy about puppy being there. she's very much mama's girl, or I'm sorry, daddy's girl, and doesn't like any, that's really it. So she is okay, but no, I would not expect that to be the case at all. She goes to work with dad. She's always with dad. It's
Awesome.
yeah.
So, and that's just so, one of the questions that I have in a lot of this stuff, and as I dissect and try to determine issues for other people's pets, is asking about their environment, asking about, what are their habits and what's in their environment, what do they do, and that type of stuff. For example, we had one dog that came through that had a heavy amount of aluminum exposure. And the pet parent goes, I don't know where they're getting aluminum. But once, we started to dissect and ask a couple of questions, you found out they live a mile from a coal pit where they're actually digging out of the coal pit, and they walk along the road where the trucks drive. But in the evening, it's safe. But he goes, we walk along that road. Well, the coal pit has a high level of aluminum toxicity with it. And once we identified it was aluminum toxicity in the source, the dog stopped itching because we would
Wow.
address it. And then also, and there's a reason why we named the company Parsley Pet. Parsley chelates out
Yeah.
aluminum out of the system as long as it has a good binding agent to attach
Mhm.
to. So
Mhm.
really with that is once we found out what the root cause of it was, then we could take action steps in order to
Mhm.
improve that piece. So that's, hence the reason for the question is that, looking at it from all angles going, and I know you guys are looking at it from the food angle and looking at
Mhm.
multiple things because you guys are both healthcare in the
Yeah.
healthcare space.
Yeah. And that's what we need to do. Is I need to give her one of your kits, because if we're running out of kind of or potentially running out of kind of some of these basics. So
Mhm.
is there more to it? Was there, the puppy's now 3 months old or something. They got her
Yeah.
at 8 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks. So,
Oh, so young.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Was there exposure prior to, what happened when she was inside mom? What happened? What was she being fed? I mean, there are lots of questions that we don't have the answers to. And so,
Right.
um, looking and seeing if there's some kind of toxicity buildup, because if her little body doesn't know how to detoxify it, if the liver's not working properly to detoxify it,
Right.
then it just sits there and continues to create more junk.
Now and I would assume she's putting enough bone content and organ content in the diet.
She's doing great. It's really fun.
And that's what's beautiful about it. But look at just this moment of Nikki and I having a conversation about one puppy. Nikki knows the puppy. I don't know the puppy, but it pulls our attention, even the focus from the show around ear infections about this dog. But
Yeah.
this is what happens to us as pet parents is it leaves this huge guessing game of what could it be, because we can feel within ourselves our stomachs hurt, our hands hurt, we've got pain somewhere, we're dizzy, like I can pinpoint and get it closer. But this puppy is not sharing openly
Mhm.
why this may be causing or what other issues might be happening. So it leaves us in this big unknown space that we just try to figure it out. And I think
Right.
it leaves many pet parents. It might be the reason why you're watching the show today is,
Mhm.
holy cow, my dog's got an ear infection. What could it be?
Yeah.
And where can I go approach it? Where can I go see it? And even after going to see the vet about this ear infection, the vet's like, allergies?
Right.
So at some point they somewhat even though they're vast medical training, it still leaves a question mark potentially for your vet
Yeah.
because there's so many variables that could be happening into it. But as you start to pull these apart, like for example, a great place to start is if you are feeding kibble and your dog is experiencing a mass amount of ear infections, go to raw. Start feeding that raw based diet, reduce inflammation, repair the gut health, allow the immune system to do the work for you
Yeah.
inside your pet, because
Yeah.
that is where you're going to start to gain.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
So is there anything around the ear infection that we should let the audience know that if an ear infection pops up, what are some things they could do for a home remedy to hopefully get rid of the itching, maybe before they go see their naturopathic vet or before they take another step? What's something that they could do at home?
Yeah, so I think that we hit on it a little bit, but first is if you see the itching and the redness, the inflammation, the
Mhm.
smell, if that's what it is, just know it's not going to go away. So jump on it immediately, because that's just a discomfort, and I'm pretty sure that if it goes too far, it can get down and can damage, create some damage down there, inside the
Right.
eardrum and things like that. So yeah, like I think the garlic and golden seal oil, apple cider vinegar. Just be careful with apple cider vinegar. Don't just pour it in, because it is
Mhm.
so astringent, but it works well. But I would think use a Q-tip or a cotton ball or something like
Mhm.
that to be careful and work your way around it. And then the coconut oil, and I would think coconut oil it's such a great antimicrobial. It's antiviral, antibacterial, antiparasitic. It's really great, but also is going to be comforting because it's oily and you know, it's not going to sting. So, but I think the same with the garlic and golden seal oil. If you can even find that anymore, it's been a long time since I've seen it, but I'm sure you can make your own also. It's just you know, in olive oil, garlic and some golden seal. So those are the things that I know. You know, I'm always oh, you know, another one that just came to me is going to be colloidal silver. Colloidal silver would be a good one too.
Okay.
Yeah. So that would be cool. But you know, I tend to always do things like that prior to anything that's a drug. You know, we want to do our best to get rid of that stuff the best way we can, without going to the drugs, because the drugs can be damaging. But if it's not working, seek out somebody who can help you work through it and find out what's going on. And maybe there are some other options that we don't talk about here. And maybe sometimes the drugs are necessary, right? So we want to just never say never with the drugs, but let's say usually never, or a lot of times never.
Well, yeah, but you know, use drugs in extreme cases when you
Right.
really need to get on top of it before it gets worse.
Mhm.
And then start taking your steps to improve not only their health, but actually start to get to that root cause, which could be which I'm gonna say, if you're feeding kibble, just go to raw. That's gonna have a lot of answers for you, as kibble is the cause of a lot of these situations.
Yeah.
So it's going to raw is starting to protect and getting to actually what improves the
Right.
health of the pet and that root cause again. And then, but in specific cases where it's you need to take it is getting more extreme, it's actually, you know, increasing in size. Don't wait. Don't try to fix it on your own. Go see a vet. Go talk to your vet. And if it takes drug interaction at that point, then it takes drug interaction. But then during it, figure out what might be the root cause and go that route so you don't have to walk down this road again.
Yeah, and do the testing. You know, this is why what Matt's company does is so amazing, because it could be something way more than what we ever even thought it could be, like aluminum or whatever other toxicity can create, you know, itchy skin. I would think any kind of toxicity, depending on the animal, could create whatever kind of symptoms because things present differently. And so it could be probably a number of things. It could be nutrients that are missing. It could be a lack of good, healthy, essential fatty acids, your omega-3 fatty acids, good fish oil. So, you know, those are all things to really consider. And all of those things are going to be missing in kibble. And I don't care if it says that it has EPA, DHA in it, it's going to be very little, and
Rancid.
it's going to be rancid. Yeah.
And that's the scary part about it. And so, and one last thing I was going to ask about the puppy, and did the puppy recently receive vaccines?
Yeah.
And
So
so
that's been a thought too, is it possibly the puppy vaccines? I think that they thought that it could be a response, but it's lasting longer. So I guess in your experience, can a reaction to the vaccine last for weeks like that?
yeah, it could. And so you could see some more longer term that maybe the body is not chelating out the heavy metals that she may have received from the vaccines. So there may be some liver issues where the
Yeah.
body's not processing, and the immune system may have been knocked down and up to a degree that then the ear infections just has a lasting effect and just keeps trumping whatever the immune system is. So yes, by boosting up this immune system and allowing it to come back, not staying on top of it with the treatments like the colloidal silver, the golden seal, the garlic. And so by putting that stuff in, you're going to stay on top of it to allow the body to come back instead of giving more drugs or medication into that space. Now, if it gets worse, definitely go see a vet. Drugs, to do what you need to do so it doesn't become a larger issue. But in the meantime, is what you can do to actually improve the health and stay on top of it. So thank you, Nikki, for today's show. Great topic.
Yeah, this is good. It's always a puzzle. And it's always a puzzle where you just got to kind of take each piece by piece and just try to kind of figure it out.
Yeah, I think as pet parents that watch this show, if you've had it more than one dog, you've dealt with ear infections. It's
Yeah.
just something that happens. And
Mhm.
so, but you can stay on top of it. So, Nikki, what is the best way for somebody to get a hold of you and get this great wisdom outside of the show?
So tastelifenutrition.com is the website. And then of course, all of the social media is Taste Life Nutrition. And so I work with humans, obviously. I also work with humans and their dogs. And so as you do.
Mhm.
And we are launching our free 5-day challenge that moves into the course on Monday. So
Awesome.
yeah. So if you haven't signed up, if you have any interest in it, of course, this is human course at this point anyway. This is a human course. But this is a free 5-day challenge, and kind of there's tons of resources and videos and assessments to help people to learn who their body is and what they need to actually thrive.
Yep.
And it's just sort of a taste of what the entire course looks like. So that starts on Monday.
Awesome.
You can go, thank you. Yeah. You can go to my website. It's sitting on the website. It says sign up for the free 5-day challenge. It's on my Facebook page. We're trying to get it out as much as we can. So we'd love for people just to sign up and see what it's about, because I think it's pretty cool. We've worked many, many months on it, and I think it's going to be good stuff.
I'm typing it in right now, and I'm gonna get it right now. So you're gonna see me signed up. So all right. So I'm taking the 3 to 5 day challenge. You guys should also take it, and take it with your puppy as well. I mean, just
Yeah.
start a challenge on, like, all right, you're going raw, I'm doing this. So you can kind of step into that space and not do it
I
alone. So this
love
is
it.
awesome. I love it. I'm looking forward to stepping into this. So
Cool.
you can always find out more about us at parsleypet.com. And what we want to test is we want to test 48 of the nutrients inside your dog's body at that cellular level. I just don't want to see what's going around in their blood and what's transporting. I want to see how the cells are absorbing the nutrients that your dog is eating. And so definitely get yourself a nutritional blueprint. Is have that nutritional blueprint so it takes away that anxiety of not knowing. So you can actually start taking the right steps, or taking the steps that is going to improve your dog's health. So thank you, Nikki, for the show today. Such a
Yeah.
great
Thank you,
show.
Matt.
Loved it.
Good stuff.
So
Right.
thank you, everybody, for watching, and we'll see you next week, same time, 3
See you
p.m.
guys.
on Thursdays, Mountain Time. All right. See you, Nikki.
See ya.